Please welcome Red Hat Vice President of Customer Experience and Engagement, Marco Bill Peter.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's funny what Tim remembered about the Red Sox game. I felt like back home in Switzerland standing on a glacier. It was so cold. Now, this half an hour here is really about our innovation awards. You heard throughout the whole week from Paul, from Jim, about our 5 winners here. And these awards recognize technology achievements of our customers and partners worldwide. As you last year saw, we had worldwide participation. We have it this year as well. And all these winners, they really demonstrate creative thinking, determined problem solving, innovative use of our Red Hat solutions, and execution, right? All these awards are real, right? There's proof points behind it. And all these categories, they combine, it's not just technology, it's technology and the culture. How can you do that, right? We're going through an evolution, and a lot of these winners, all of these winners have shown these transformations. Now, the categories are DevOps, application optimization, cloud infrastructure, enterprise transformation, and the best use of open source way, or the open source way. Based on what happened earlier this year at the Oscars, we want to be a bit more transparent about how we judge. I think this will help you to understand it better as well. We have a total of 7 judges. 2, unfortunately, couldn't be here for personal reasons. 5 are here. And each category has 1 winner that judges selected during nomination process. So we get lots of nomination. We go through all these nominations. It's an amazing experience to read about all this innovation that's happening around the world. 5 winners get selected for each category, or 1 each category. And remember, today at the end of the keynote, one of these 5 winners will be announced as the 2017 Innovator of the Year. Now, let's get the other judges to join me on the stage, please. Now, the award judges include a diverse group of talented professionals. Some are Red Hatters, as you probably recognize Chris Wright and Ashesh, but then also we have a customer, the previous winner of the Innovation Award, Dietmar from Amadeus, and actually also experts from outside, as in technical analysts or press as well. So we have Chris Rommels representing that. Now, many of these judges actually work throughout the journey of these customers or these partners in their innovation. So they have a lot of insights in how actually that journey happened. And so what we want to do is a little panel here and kind of have a few questions on how they see it, how these winners actually went through their journey. All of these winners have obviously solutions from Red Hat. They're using innovative products from us. They've used our services, and you know, at Red Hat, we don't just sell technology and a license, we sell you a subscription around open source, right? You remember that? The subscription includes obviously support, which I represent, but then also documentation, product security, the life cycle. That's all the value. And then Red Hat also provides, as you know, training. You had the opportunity to do certifications here, but then also the great consulting team that you've seen yesterday, a very innovative Swiss story, which I was really proud of. Now, let me sit down here and let's start here with, Paul Cormier mentioned in his Tuesday keynote, right? DevOps is changing how enterprise develop and launch applications and services. Now, similar to the process in the open source communities, right? DevOps focuses on collaboration to achieve business goals using IT resources. Let me ask Ashesh, our expert here, how is the industry embracing DevOps?
Thanks, Marco. So this is an extremely important topic that we see a lot of discussion in the industry today. I think the industry struggled with a few things in the past, which is why we've seen the advent, the embrace of DevOps. From a development perspective, we found 77% of projects are considered challenged or failed. About half of developers lack significant cloud development experience, and only 23% of developers are confident with the technology choices they've made. All right, that's on the development side, right? From an operations perspective, what we found are other challenges as well. right? We've found that the cost for a large-scale app that's been written, when it goes down, it's very significant, right? The average time to diagnose or repair an issue is about 200 minutes or so. There's an average of 750 defects in a 50,000-line Java application. And of course, when this does go down, it costs about $42,000 or so per hour. So I just rattled off a series of stats to give a sense of the magnitude of the challenge, and then obviously the opportunity that arises for us to solve it. But these are just the technical hurdles I've talked about here. I think we could maybe ask someone like Dietmar, what he thinks from an organizational perspective, or behavioral change perspective, that needs to be addressed here.
Yeah, so I believe here we talk a lot about collaboration. No? So it's important to get the different teams together. The operational teams, the R&D teams, development, and business people coming together. So DevOps is really a tool to foster collaboration, and by this, it's a cultural change agent. It's really important that we get the teams together to have more productivity, earlier discussions, and knowledge sharing at the end. So in our case, there are many examples. I can single out one that is currently running, a large project to revisit and re-engineer to some degree our e-commerce platform. That's a huge piece of software used by many airlines out there. And what we have been doing is exactly in this spirit, putting the different teams together, everyone from the very beginning on. And so it creates energy, and it creates common knowledge, and it creates pride. And at the end, it's all about culture, really. It's a tool to implement this collaborative culture.
Thank you, Dietmar. Thank you, Ashesh. Let me ask you one question more specific to the Barclays success story that we heard, right? Their application platform as a service solution was the success of that was really the ability to shift to a more innovative, more agile DevOps approach. How did Red Hat help here, and what can the audience learn from that, Ashesh?
Sure. So, I've personally spent a lot of time with the Barclays team, and they've been on a remarkable journey over several years. But let's just talk about the macro perspective for a minute. The financial services industry is faced a lot of regulatory pressure, and of course there's market volatility. We all know that. Increasingly, we find new fintech disruptors that are entering the market, and as a result, organizations like Barclays want to become more agile than they've been in the past to develop new applications, take advantage of existing investments. And we've consistently seen that on the journey that Barclays has been on with Red Hat, right? We have a long history together, with regard to their adoption of the enterprise Linux technologies, or RHEL, our JBoss technologies, and building the APAS, the application platform as a service on Red Hat's OpenShift platform has been a natural extension of that. We find that they were doing many more frequent releases for new services, and they were able to have much more support for bridging the old with the new, right? This is the balancing the existing investment with the new microservices-based application that they were building. Again, an opportunity for collaboration between dev and ops teams. One thing though that's important to note is OpenShift and container technology is still relatively new with regard to wide-scale industry adoption. They're likely to be growing pains as we go on the journey. So I almost feel sometimes for customers around the problem, technology is obviously something that needs to be overcome, but could almost be the easier of the problems that they face. And as Dietmar alluded to, that the real challenge is cultural, right? How do you shift from large drops of software that happen maybe on every 6-month basis or quarterly basis to incremental releases? How do you go to embrace this culture of failing fast, being able to deliver continuously? Organizations like Barclays, and Barclays is a splendid example of this, are embracing DevOps, right, in the public cloud, and thinking differently about technology and business infrastructure. And these teams that need to work together, right? They need to become familiar with the technology that they're using, the new technology that they're adopting, but also being able to collaborate across boundaries.
It's great what they achieved. Yeah, thank you. So Dietmar, with your last year's win, right? There's you using OpenShift container platform as well. What similarities do you see between Barclays' story and your story at Amadeus?
So when I've read the Barclay proposition, a lot of things reminded me to the journey we are going through. So yes, we go massively on OpenShift, as you know. So The challenges to master the technology are very similar, and the feedbacks from the teams and the gains at the end are that we have faster releasing on the platform, and the teams are kind of freed from looking to the underlying technical stack, because that's now managed by the platform itself. So they are focusing more on the releasing, on the business side of things, which is what we really want them to do. So all of this has come with challenges, but also with a great level of energy and an adoption that is strong. So it's good. And it's also worthwhile to mention that it was important, and it's still important for us to have a strong partner helping us, because on the technical side and on the implementation of DevOps, we have had many questions. So having Red Hat with us and other companies playing in this game is very important. So.
Yeah, I think it's correct, right? Having a partnership and real collaboration between partners. It's not just a supplier relationship. It's good, yeah. Now, it's not just the financial sector where cultural shifts are happening, right? And increasingly necessary and pretty common, right? The potential is in any industry, as you can tell, right? And you know, as we just said, collaboration is one of the most important elements in the open source way. Now, it's very exciting to see large, previously a bit more isolated organization like the government of British Columbia taking advantage of DevOps collaboration in an open way. Now, let me go back to you, Dietmar, right? What has the Amadeus experience been with embracing the open source software, but then also the open source technology in the open source way?
Be careful, I can talk for hours on this. So we have a long history in open source usage. So I mean, we use Linux, like I guess most of us here, for ages. So we are not completely new to this, but a few years back, I would say our relation to open source changed, where we got more active, and we looked more actively into projects. And when we took the decision to go with OpenShift, we took it also obviously because it's an open source layer, and underlying Kubernetes software is fully open. And we did actively with your teams participate to the evolution of Kubernetes. So we contribute to this environment, which creates on our side a very deep sense of ownership and knowledge of the platform, which is very important for critical systems. When you have to understand what you're doing, if you have to react very fast to problems. And I think it's also a matter of really embracing the open source spirit. I mean, we profit a lot from the community. We get collective knowledge into our products. We have a lot of knowledge, and I think we owe to some degree to the community to hand back and to ship contributions that we believe are of common interest to everyone. That's what a community really is. I mean, if in a community everyone is only consuming, you can't construct society or any positive thing around the community. So we try to take this seriously, and that's what we think we have to do, really.
That's admirable. Really embracing the open source spirit and contributing back, engaging open source is great. Now, collaboration can come from many sources, right? And Ashesh, I know you worked with the government of the British Columbia quite closely to build the developers exchange. You worked on their journey, right? To help them on the journey to become more collaborative and partner, and how they partner with the private sector to improve the services to the clients, right? Can you tell us a bit more about this story and why they were selected for the award for the open source way?
Sure. So I'm really glad to see British Columbia being recognized for the work they've been doing here for at least a couple of reasons, right? One is they've been extremely thoughtful about what they want to do. It's about trying to empower developers, essentially individual citizens, to be able to use technology for the common good. And that's really great. We've had them be an active participant in the OpenShift Commons, which again speaks to the power of community and collaboration. And that's been really great to see. And also, it's appropriate for them, given the theme of this year's conference, right, which is celebrating the impact of the individual. I think the work that British Columbia is doing really is about trying to have each individual make a greater impact. So the open source way is really about using open source to create that culture to support the collaboration. Right, so we talk a lot about businesses having flexibility and agility to compete. and to be able to rapidly develop IT initiatives and embrace DevOps. And I think the British Columbia Developers Exchange is off to a really good start. We already heard about some of the things that are happening from the videos that we've seen earlier this week. What OpenShift really is doing, and the technology platform that we provide, is supporting that collaborative approach, right? Helping to reduce time between proposing new applications to actually developing, deploying them. That's extremely powerful, right, to amplify the impact of the individual. These projects highlight the power of the openness and collaboration that we've talked about. And there's some really great examples, right? One example that I personally liked a lot was the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure developing the school bus inspection tracking service. I think we saw a quick picture of that earlier this week. The system was built and launched in just 8 weeks. Right? Absolutely remarkable, right? Because previously it might have taken a year. And again, unlocking the power of the individuals who collaborated on that. Another project that showed the work that they did also with the private sector, right? So really expanding out the ecosystem was a highway camera project. Peter Watkins actually talked about this, right? He's the executive director over at BC Dev Exchange during the keynote yesterday. And he really talked about the opportunities that they had to be able to create an open 511 API for road events, right? Allowing departments to work with a local software firm, right, to expand others who can collaborate on this, to build an app that offers more information, and really be able to have technology companies provide improved services for citizens. That truly is a great example of the open source way and collaborating.
Thank you, Ashesh. I think having a government publishing open APIs is just so remarkable. It's awesome, yeah. Now, broad availability of open source projects in the community, right, means opportunity for governments to connect with innovation, with open innovation, and provide better services for citizens. Another similar government open source story is here in the application optimization category. We recognize the government of the state of Jalisco in Mexico for using an agile approach to achieve superior performance in creating, maintaining, and deploying business applications. So you see we have Canada, we have Mexico. Now, let me ask Chris Wright, there's no wall in between. Chris Wright, let me ask Chris, why are the governments like Jalisco so keen to adopt an open source first strategy for projects like application optimization?
Well, there's a lot of benefits that we've already talked about here about collaboration, empowering the individual, but I think there's a really important aspect that's just about the operational efficiency of running, whether it's a business or in this case a government. So you bring this open source innovation and technology, it's really enabling the government to be more efficient, to lower costs, and embrace agility. So just the same situation you'd see in an enterprise. And specifically at Jalisco, they've brought together some Red Hat technologies, including JBoss, EAP, and Fuse, and RHEL, and Rev, to really cut their operational costs significantly. So for them, we've seen a 60% reduction in cost, and also at the same time, in operational cost, and at the same time, really significantly cutting the hardware costs. So great cost efficiency. Along with that, they're able to serve 1,000% more citizens. So going from 3,000 citizens per day to 30,000 citizens per day in terms of transactions between citizens and the government. And maybe not the most exciting kind of way to measure efficiency, but quick turnaround in things like traffic citations and tax collection. So that's really helping the government be more efficient, and what that means for the citizens is that's money that's being well spent on the services that they're looking to provide as a government. Also, you see real performance enhancements, improvements for both the state side and citizens in terms of how they can interact with the government.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, the innovation that I got to pay my fine quicker.
That's right.
All right, let's leave that aside now for now. But let me ask Chris Ramos here, right? How did transparency, collaboration, and citizen participation align with Jalisco's open source development model? And how can others learn from that?
Sure, so I think one of the places to start is just that the state of Jalisco's position as a public entity, I mean, that just for one puts a lot of pressure on them to ensure that when they change, they do so right, and everything's done really well. Ultimately, the citizens are consumers, right? I mean, it's kind of their customer they have to deal with and keep happy and keep their government working well. And as such, working with citizens that are ultimately consumers, their demands and expectations are also going to evolve very rapidly. And so the state of Jalisco had to look for a way to set themselves up to both develop now and also set them up for the future to be able to develop just as fast and keep pace. And I think if you then also take a step back and just think, to your point, when you're paying bills, right, there's a level of trust that requires, a level of transparency that people want, especially if you're going to ask them to deviate from how they've interacted in the past. Certainly if you're sending off a check or working with a new platform, you want to ensure that everything's going to work out as you expect. And I think if you just take a step back and then think about what other people can learn from this example, I think the first and foremost is the fact that they recognized a pretty big need to change and just transform as an organization. And they also recognized that given their demands both to change now and also in the future, they thought it was important to use open solutions to ultimately take advantage of the innovation in the industry today, but also provide them flexibility for the future and avoid any lock-in or anything like that. And I think another thing that was very important that they did is they recognized up front that they wanted to make sure they did get it right and they picked the right mix of products. And also that when they made that change, their developers would be prepared to hit the ground running and be successful, again, now and in the future. And to do that, I think one thing that paid benefits to them is they worked up front with the Red Hat consulting and training team to do so. So ultimately, I think what caught my eye about this winter more than anything is the fact that there was a significant change undertaken. I mean, just the sheer magnitude of the change, but more importantly, when you look at the results at the end, some of the statistics that Chris shared were really impressive, and I think ultimately you saw where they made a big change and they got really big results at the end.
Yeah, it's great to see those stats, yeah. Thank you, Chris, yeah. Let's go back to Chris Wright, right? What aspects of this strategy did you admire or stood out as the most impressive in terms of industry best practices?
Well, I think a key tenet here is collaboration and the notion of transparency, collaboration, and then citizenship engagement, which I think are really the tenets of what we're talking about here in terms of open source and bringing together ideas. One of the things that the Jalisco government is doing is really building a platform so that they can move ahead and not be left behind with technology changes. And this kind of forward-looking activity has earned them the title of Silicon Valley of Mexico, which I think is a really great way to look at it. They were trying to build themselves a core engine for innovation, and that the traditional way of engaging with a supplier and getting proprietary solutions just isn't the answer today for how do you build yourself your innovation engine. And ultimately, there's further plans to build data centers, private cloud, and really they're giving themselves the platform to expand into the future.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Yeah, let's transition a little bit here, and like you said, businesses really need the right tools to deploy managed IT elements like private cloud, including having the right software and the right management tools to do this, right? And technology like OpenStack can be a bit complex. I think we all agree on that, right? Ashesh, what are the top reasons organizations are adopting private cloud solutions with OpenStack despite its complexity? And how does Rackspace meet their needs?
Right. Well, it's a timely question, Marco, especially given OpenStack Summit is next week in Boston. I'm sure many of you are planning to attend. I think the past challenge with deploying OpenStack has been about matching customer expectations with the maturity and where the technology has been. I think as technology has matured, customers are thinking less and less about just public cloud in a box, right? I think maybe that's where they first started. But increasingly more as a scale-out, elastic data center infrastructure that can reduce cost, increase flexibility. So I think that's been really positive. With regard to the adoption patterns that are happening around OpenStack, we're starting to see them. Rackspace, of course, has been an early leader in the OpenStack community, just like Red Hat, right, have been contributing significantly. Organizations still need specialized IT resources, though, to deploy and manage OpenStack. And for the organizations that don't necessarily have it or need assistance, Rackspace can certainly help. and manage this for them. So they've created a nice business model around OpenStack to help several customers use it and get a lot of value from it. I think maybe one final point I want to make is that Rackspace has partnered pretty extensively with Red Hat in the OpenStack community. So again, in the spirit of collaboration that we've been talking about all morning, but that's really great to see. So collaborating now with Red Hat on end user adoption is extremely natural.
Thank you, Ashesh, for the context. Let's go, Chris, if I may ask you, right? Red Hat has a strong partnership with Rackspace, and it's just as Ashesh said, for a long time. And as Brian Thompson talked about in Tuesday's general session, right? We've worked together closely over the years to improve open source technology and provide those tools for the enterprise IT. What can you tell us about the latest Red Hat and Rackspace collaboration that is the foundation for Rackspace private cloud solution?
Well, Rackspace worked together with Red Hat to develop the Rackspace private cloud powered by Red Hat. And it's a Red Hat OpenStack platform-based solution, combining other technologies like Ceph and certainly RHEL and Satellite, combining those technologies with Rackspace's amazing expertise in managing a cloud, a complex cloud environment. And so this is a great combination of operational skills and technology, really supporting the end customer's journey to the cloud. And not all customers have the internal operational skills to bring the cloud onto their premise. So working through a partnership with a supplier like Rackspace helps that customer build their journey to platform for their innovation. So giving them the place to build their business differentiation. I think some interesting things that have come out of this collaboration and the solution that Rackspace has is enabling quick workflows. So things that may have taken, introduction of a new software version that may have taken upwards of 40, 45 days, bringing that down to something like 3 days. So dramatic improvement in how quickly you can update software. And also, how do you create a production environment from scratch to fully functional? Certainly without agile infrastructure, that could take months. Here we're talking about something including all of the different aspects like load balancing, network, multiple nodes, coming up in something on the order of 7.5 minutes. So really rapid production environments that give you the ability to move quickly as you're building out your solutions. And I think the way to look at it is simplifying the private cloud and enabling all of that open source innovation without sort of sacrificing any of the stability, security, really key mission critical underlying infrastructure that you need to run your enterprise.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you, Chris. I love these stats, and you can see this is why these innovation awards are real, right? It's not just a marketing effort. It's really like we look at these details and we analyze them, right? And so so this collaboration is a good example to other customers aiming to adopt a private cloud solution, looking for more integration with Red Hat. Chris, is it?
Well, it's a real partnership between Rackspace and Red Hat, and I think the future of IT is so much about collaboration between vendors and customers, vendors and vendors together with customers. So this is really how we're building our next generation infrastructure. I love a quote from Dan Shepard saying 50% of the Rackspace engineering team is Red Hat. So that is really just underscoring exactly the kind of collaboration that we're building together.
It's awesome.
Oh, sorry. And so together, actually, Red Hat and Rackspace have built, contributed something about 29% of the code base upstream in the OpenStack community. And with that, bringing together our solution to the customers, you're seeing things like 99.99% API SLAs guaranteed through from Rackspace. So this is the kind of enterprise infrastructure that comes out of this tight collaboration.
Thank you, Chris. Now, let's transition again to the next area, right? And this week we heard it a lot, right? Integration is obviously a big topic in IT, and it can be the integration of private cloud and public cloud resources, this whole open hybrid cloud, but also the traditional challenge of balancing investments in the old IT versus in innovation, right? I mean, how do you balance that, right? And so this is the enterprise transformation category, which focus on organizations that achieved and really showcase using the agile and open practices and technology to achieve that transformation. We've seen it over the years, and this year, the winner of the last category is Macquarie Banking Financial Services Group in Australia. You saw it, I think on Tuesday or yesterday, right? They built a much smarter digital banking experience in a personalized online banking platform. You saw the apps yesterday in the movie, right? For their Australian retail consumers, right? They're continually evolving and improving the customer experience. So it's a good example. Chris, let me ask Chris Rommels one more time. Can you share your thoughts on this story from Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, again, one of the things that stood out to me was just the magnitude of the change that was undertaken and just the effort that they recognized they needed to start. They were in a situation where the bank hadn't invested for quite a while, so they were stuck with a slew of monolithic applications that they recognized they needed to update and start a process to do so. And also, when they recognized that need to change, they also wanted to make sure that when they did change, they got started in a way that would ultimately support a more agile and DevOps culture. And from there, I think one of the important things they did is that when they were looking at different solutions, they found a partner in Red Hat that had both PaaS as well as container solutions. But again, just as in the state of Jalisco example, one thing they did is that they recognized that open technology, again, would provide them not only the source of innovation they needed to move forward, but also would provide them flexibility in the future. And with that, they ultimately selected Red Hat OpenShift Container Platform, and that was as a public cloud implementation and data center run by AWS. And I think one of the things that's really important here is that they wanted to pick a solution, but also just a partner. Again, just like we were talking about just a moment ago, they wanted to set up a model for transformation. So this was a case study in one part of the organization, but they wanted to be able to scale their success throughout the entire organization. And ultimately they were able to do so when they selected Red Hat after, again, looking through what else was available to them. So just, again, take a step back here and continue on the theme of statistics tell truths here. And one thing that really jumped out is that their developer productivity improved by over 50%. So once again, huge operational cost savings. But also just in terms of getting things done, their release time went from hours to just minutes. And so once again, this is about an organization recognizing a need to change, and in this case, a need to make some fast project progress to catch up. And once they made those big changes, those big investments, they were able to not only save on their operational side for them, but transform ultimately the end customer experience, which is really what drives long-term success.
Thank you, thank you. Now, let me thank you for everybody for sharing the insights, right? We've learned the benefits of being a risk taker within reason. That's why innovation award winners are here, right? And adopting new open source technologies like OpenShift and other Red Hat solutions is a way to embrace innovation in a more agile, collaborative DevOps approach, right? And obviously with the help that Red Hat can provide with expert support and guidance. Now, this is asked for you, right? Hopefully you get inspired. We always, when we get these studies, we get inspired and think it's like, wow, this is really cool, right? What they did there and there, the public APIs and the government. This is really good to see and get inspired, hopefully, and be the disruptor, right? And you can cause change, right? If financial and government institution can do it, you can do it as well, right? And you can turn competition into collaboration, work together, right? Be the individual who starts the ripple of change and the innovation in your org. Now, the Red Hat Innovation Award celebrates and recognizes the organization that use open source to solve business challenges. Out of these 5 winners, one is being voted from you as the audience here and online. to the Innovator of the Year. Now, let's go over here.
There's only
The
one envelope. Only one envelope.
There's only one envelope, right? Yeah. So 2017 Innovator of the Year is this the real one? Rackspace. Congratulations, Brian. Pretty good. Congratulations. Awesome. Congratulations. 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 I think they're making pictures somewhere. I think so. Oh, there we go. All right. So take this away. So be bold. We want to see you up here next year, or we want to see your story. Keep out for the nomination. This is opening next year. Talk to a Red Hat person if you want to be part of this. Submit your stories. We really want to see you. So thank you for attending the morning keynote. We'll see you back in the afternoon, and be the force with you.